Welcome back, gamers. Today I'm going to review Tom Clancy, The Division. First things first, I want to get out of the way is Steam reviews. Somebody had to do a review on this game, being honest about it, talking about the good points and the bad points about the game. And the fact is that this game was seen at E3. People have saw how awesome it looked. And the problem with it now is that it was dumbed down a little bit. It doesn't have the same physics. It doesn't look the same, etc. Because the fact that they were running at supercomputers to show you what the game looks like. The other part was that some people really hyped up this game. I'm mainly talking about you, Ryan, who hyped up the game when I warned you many times, never hype up video games, and then you turn around and yell at me because you hyped it up and it wasn't my fault to tell you that I told you so. Anyways, point being is that this is not even my type of genre of game, but I can put myself in the shoes of a person who does like this type of game. What type of game is Tom Clancy The Division? Tom Clancy The Division is a TPS RPG with a cover and shoot system. It is similar to Borderlands, it's similar to Destiny, Defiance, and so on. There's plenty of games in this genre. You get colored loot items, you progress in the game through levels, you kill, you earn XP, and so on. It's not Call of Duty, it's not Battlefield or an arcade shooter, it is an RPG. It's not an MMO because you don't see people all over the screen anytime you want. It's based on servers. The only time you see them is when you're in the dark zone, in their parties, or at the hub. The story of The Division takes place in Manhattan, New York, when a virus is unleashed upon the general public. Thus, law and chaos is now completely in disarray. The Division is summoned to bring back law and order. The Division is a classified unit of self-supported agents who live normal lives among us. They can be your friend, your family. The game itself doesn't adhere to the same script you usually hear from a storyline with the main antagonist and a lot of protagonists that are memorable in the game. The game instead chooses to tell the story in a different way, which is quite interesting and immersive. Instead, the developers wanted to immerse players in the story of the city itself and the events that happened. There will be some camera footages here and there that you can see that will tell you the story of the game, some photos that will relate about the virus, and also tons of phones and echo all over the place. The phones will have audio recordings, while the echoes are recreation from cameras. It's really cool to see these scenes unfold as you find an echo.
Guess I thought that maybe, just maybe, we'd put humanity first.
It's really immersive in this aspect, so there is tons of lore in the city of Manhattan itself during the catastrophe. At start, when you're given a chance to create your character in the game, there's a limited amount of options you can choose from preset heads, coloration, tattoos, and no sliders of any sorts for body shape or face shape. But what really makes your character look different than anybody else in the game is the way you mix and match the clothes you find or discover in the game. And of course, you can buy some special ones from the store. At start, if you look at the requirements for the game has a really high requirements. You cannot run this game on a half-baked potato, so if you don't have the PC to support it, you might as well play the console version, unfortunately, because you can't have all the great settings turned up. And in order to do so, you need to meet the recommended requirements, which is really high. And I was able to run the game at 2K, 4K with absolutely no problem at all, and I tested it on 1080. It runs perfectly fine for me, and it looks absolutely phenomenal. And even though it's downgraded, the physics of the game is nothing to joke about. You'll see chips in the walls when you shoot, you'll see tires blow up from cars, windows shot out, boxes move around, cones are kicked around, certain ornaments explode. So there's a nice amount of destructibility in the environment itself. If you look at the interface and HUD itself, it looks really nice and clean. The game interface and HUD looks exactly like a Ubisoft game. If you played other games such as Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, or The Crew, you'll notice, waypoints overhead. You can turn off different HUDs and options in the game or resize them. It's a really nice and clean interface that doesn't clutter everywhere. Let's get into the game's weapon itself. The many weapons you'll find in this game will be assault rifles, submachine guns, sniper rifles, pistols, and shotguns. The game lets you carry 3 types of weapon. The first 2 are your main weapons. The third one is the infinity ammo weapon slot, which I call it. The infinity ammo is usually a pistol or a sawed-off shotgun. The guns themselves also offers a nice customizable coloration option. Along with that, you can mod the guns from the barrels to the scope and also the muzzle to increase its stats. At the same time, guns also carry hidden perk characteristics. In order to unlock them, you have to go to the system of having what is required. For example, a gun might require you to have a certain amount of firepower or a certain amount of armor in order for you to unlock the special perk. Each of the weapons in the game are color coded, from white being normal to blues, purples, and so on. This is a universal color system you see from many other games. Aside from just the weapons, there are also armor pieces you can also mod in with 1 slot or 2 slots. You can buy these items, guns and armor alike, you can craft them, or even find them. It is a loot intensive game, so for those of you that likes looting in the game, you'll love this aspect of the game because there are tons of different guns and loots that you can choose from. You can even roll and change the stats later on in the game. If you open up the skill menu in the game, you can see that there are 3 different types of skill trees in the game, from medical, tech, and security. You can only choose from a variety of 2 of them, along with one of them being the ultimate, which is the 4th one for each of the tree. So 2 skills that you can choose from that you can switch in between combat, and 1 ultimate. Now, the other thing about the skills in the tree is that they break off into 3 other specs that you can look into. For example, if you choose the turret, you can have a fire turret or electrical turret, and so on. And from the talent tree itself, there are different talents that you can look at to spec for your character to give them bonus, such as by shooting a character in the head, you'll get a bonus for this, etc. So there's a nice amount of talents in the game that you can choose from, 4 total that you can slot and switch in between, but overall I didn't find them too interesting for my taste. Aside from that, there are also perks that you unlock when you upgrade in the game. Perks are pretty much passive and permanent. For example, they give you an extra med kit, extra grenades. If you look at the map itself, it's pretty big, split into different sectors, whereas the sectors are capped as a certain level range. Notice that there's a dark zone in the center of the map. We'll get into that in a bit, but aside from that, each sector has a lot of things you can do. Each one of them has a safe house that you can fast travel between, because there is fast traveling in the game. Along with that, there's tons of bonus things to discover, such as agent whereabouts and also phones and echoes to seek out. Now, as you go back to the safe house, you'll be able to look at the chalkboard, or you can actually talk to one of the agents to unlock all these missions at the certain area. The cool part about this is that you can free roam with a friend and play all these missions instead of doing it yourself. The other thing about the missions is that the missions are split into certain categories. For example, each of the symbols that you see the mission for will give you the points needed to unlock a certain tree. They'll give you XP and also some money. The other thing is that there are side missions in the game that will give you blueprints for items. Now here's the problem with the missions on the map themselves. Not the main missions, the little missions. The mission takes place in different areas and different zones, and you'll see lots of scenery changes. Unfortunately, the missions can get quite tedious as you play the game for 30 to 35 hours to get to maximum level. The problem with these missions is that, yeah, you'll be turning on power supplies, you turn on antennas, you defend a supply point for the JTF, or you take down hostile stronghold, but these get tedious over time because you'll be doing it over and over again to level up. And the last but not least, the story missions. The story missions itself gives you the most amount of points for a certain tech tree, and at the same time will give you a lot of XP and a lot of money. And that is only the first run though. You can do it with 3 other players. After that, you can repeat the dungeons if you want to in a harder difficulty setting to earn and get loot. The main mission is the most enjoyable aspect to the game. It's always great fun to play because you'll be able to play with friends or strangers and work out a strategy to overcome the enemies in that certain mission. And the best part about it is if you play it on harder difficulty, the enemies will literally melt your faces in because the enemies will have armor and higher amount of HP and damage. But the bosses weren't that great though. So the main missions in the game are like dungeons, and I treated them like dungeons. As you wander the map of Manhattan, seeing the civilians displaced of the crisis, you'll run into the enemies of the game. How are the enemies in the Division? The enemies of the Division falls into 4 categories of factions. You have the rioters, you have the Rikers, which are a gang, you have the cleaners, which are big guys with the flamethrowers, or sometimes they're big in general, and the LMB, Last Man Battalion. And the enemy also has different classes that they go by, which uses different weapons. They can be a flamethrower user, they could be a machine gunner user, you'll see melee rioters, you'll see a bunch of different sharpshooters, you'll also see those that spam grenades. And that's pretty much the enemies in the game. I treated them like mobs. They act like mobs in the game. The AI does exactly what they're supposed to do in an RPG type of environment. They take cover, they shoot at you, and also they do other things to try to kill you. And at the same time, they can't, because since the game is RPG based, you'll have ways to heal yourself and take cover in other locations to overcome the situation. Sometimes they can be really stupid because they don't really take cover when you're shooting at them. They can also be sort of challenging at times. The problem with humanoid enemies in the game is that once you face them and fought them, they're pretty much the same throughout the entire game, and it can seem sort of bland because of this reason. Humanoid enemies has always been kind of bland. The enemies do sort of lack in variety. The only way to differentiate the enemies is what they wear. By looking at what they wear, you can tell what faction they belong to. The other interesting fact about them is that if you sneak up on enemies, you can actually hear a little backstory about them and their families as they talk among each other. Aside from the missions that you can do in the game, this is all the PvE aspect of the game. As you play the game for 35 to 40 hours, that's pretty much it. But there's also one more aspect of the game that is really interesting. The Dark Zone. The Dark Zone in the game, if you open the map, is a dark highlighted purple area of the game broken into different brackets. At first you'll see level caps and ranges, but as you progress in the game, the level cap changes, the zone changes also, until you reach 30 where everything becomes 30 in the zone. The Dark Zone has the hardest NPC and also the PvP area of the game, along with the best loot. It has a different reputation system it goes by instead of leveling. It has different loots. It has a nice amount of NPCs here that are really hard and respawns in certain areas, and also chests you can open if you unlock keys. There's only a limited amount of space you can carry loot with in this area, and they are contaminated, so you have to call in a helicopter to extract it. During this point, anything goes. Mobs can come by and kill you, and then your loot will drop, somebody else can pick it, or you can get ganked and killed. This is where you'll spend a majority of your endgame content if you choose not to do the PvE aspect of the game. The best part about the Dark Zone is the PvP. If you die in this zone also, you drop loot. If someone kills you, they take your loot. And the cool part about it is going rogue in this area will paint you as a red target. And by doing so, you'll see a skull on your character, and people will all over the map will be able to pinpoint your character and hunt you down. The cool part about it is the more people you kill, the more reputation system you earn if you get away. There'll be a little timer that ticks down, and you pretty much have to run away from the situation. If you do get away, good for you. If you don't, then you're pretty much dead, and most of the time you will end up dead. But the cool part about it is you can team up with 4 other players and take on the entire server itself. It's a fun aspect, but it's also gear based. That means the better your gear is, the more people you kill. The weaker your gear is, the more likely you will get killed. I've experienced this dying many times and also killing plenty of people because of my gear. I've experienced players where I shoot them 200 times and they barely budge with their health. So as the end game level, when you get better and better gear, you'll end up being able to kill people easily or not doing so easily, and you'll have to retreat. Aside from that, end game content also consists of dailies you can do to earn these special tokens so that you can unlock items in the game. But that is also all there is to the Division right now, guys. At endgame content, if you rush to it, there's only Dark Zone, doing the missions over again, harder difficulty for loot, and also doing your dailies. And as time goes along, Ubisoft will be adding more and more things to the games, and we'll see a lot more dungeons or a lot more missions to the game that'll be interesting, hopefully, and a lot more material to the Dark Zone itself. I want to see more concentration and effort put into the Dark Zone, because this is the best thing about this game. It's different, it's not done before, and it's quite frankly really fun and completely chaotic. Now, what are some negative issues that impacted this game? The servers did go down the launch day like most games do, but it quickly went up after that. Some people are still experiencing issues, and there are a few bugs here and there in the game that people have experienced, such as falling through the world. But overall, it wasn't too bad from my end. So who would or wouldn't like these type of games? The person who would like these type of games are if you like Borderlands, if you like Destiny, if you like FPS RPG in general, you'll definitely love this game as it has much to offer. The other thing is that if you're a loot mongerer and you like some PvP, this is probably the game for you. Or in general, if you're just a gun nut, you'll definitely love this game. And then, who are the people that won't like this game? Number 1, if you don't like online only game. Number 2, if you hate Ubisoft or Uplay. Number 3, if you're looking for something that is more fresh than this game, you won't find as much here. And finally, number 4, this is just not your type of game. For me, I would definitely fall under number 4, even though I talked about great points and, some weak points about this game for 13 to 14 minutes straight. This game is just not my type of genre anymore, and I'm always looking for something fresh and something great. The saving points about this game for me that I enjoyed the most was definitely the Dark Zone, the shooting, the graphics, and of course the missions playing with other people. Unfortunately, everything else was just mediocre. And I had the balls to level up to level 30, make this video, and to tell you this, because that's what being a reviewer is about. You point out the strong points and the weak points about the game, and let those that do enjoy these type of games know what's up, so they can actually pick up the game for themselves and decide if they want to play it or not. Anyways, this has been my review of The Division, guys. Check out The Division if you meet the requirements and want to play this game, and to enjoy something you like and have some fun. Otherwise, there's tons of other games to play and save your money on. As for me, I'm definitely looking towards the horizon to find new games out there. Anyways, remember to follow on the Steam Curator, Twitch, and also subscribe to this YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys, and remember to always game on. It's time to make America great again. Bombs away! Boom, 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 boom. Oh man, I'm so dead. I am so dead. Gotta get as many as I can. Let's do this. They're gonna take each other's loot. This is so chaotic. Oh, no!
15 seconds.
Whew, that was awesome. Think I could go to sleep well.